Hello and welcome to this episode of the Recruitment Podcast, where we celebrate academic recruitment and bring education to everyone. Today, we're diving into the world of faculty and staff mental health in higher education. It's a topic that's really deeply intertwined with your work in HR and recruitment, and by the end of this deep dive, you'll see exactly why.
I am particularly excited about this one. It's an area where we're seeing real momentum for change, a shift in how higher ed institutions prioritize well-being.
We're exploring an excerpt from an article titled, "A Critical Framework for Supporting Faculty and Staff Mental Health and Well-Being." The article opens by reminding us that mental health concerns among students were on the rise even before the pandemic hit. It got me thinking, though, how often do we consider the well-being of those teaching those students?
That's a crucial point. Historically, faculty and staff well-being hasn't been given the same level of attention. The article suggests this has to do with the unique structure of higher education. Faculty, especially tenured professors, haven't always viewed themselves as traditional employees in the same way staff might.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying there's this inherent difference in how faculties perceive their roles within the institution, and that's impacted how we approach their well-being.
Exactly. It's a subtle but significant distinction. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. It was a catalyst intensifying existing issues and forcing everyone to confront the reality of just how fragile well-being can be.
The article talks about how the pandemic brought this simmering issue of faculty burnout to a boiling point. Suddenly, institutions had to reckon with unsustainable workloads and the lack of support systems in place. It wasn't just students struggling anymore. It was everyone.
Right. Faculty and staff started speaking out more openly about their struggles, challenging that always-on expectation that had become the norm in academia. They were demanding change, refusing to sacrifice their mental health for the sake of work.
It sounds like a major cultural shift. And this is where the Surgeon General's framework comes in, right?
Yes, the Surgeon General recognized this wasn't just a higher education issue, but a widespread workplace concern. This framework provides a roadmap for organizations to prioritize mental health, outlining 5 key elements for creating a mentally healthy workplace.
So this framework is like a blueprint for change, responding to the widespread realization that we need to do better when it comes to mental health in the workplace. For today's deep dive, we'll be focusing on the first and arguably most foundational element, protection from harm.
This element is all about creating an environment where people feel safe, both physically and psychologically. It's the bedrock upon which everything else rests. Without this sense of safety, it's impossible to foster a truly thriving workplace.
And the article doesn't shy away from the harsh realities. It cites cases of burnout, severe stress, and even a tragic case of suicide linked to a toxic workplace culture. This really drives home why protection from harm is so crucial.
Absolutely, and this is where it becomes incredibly relevant for those of you in HR and recruitment. Think about it. If an institution has a reputation for neglecting the well-being of its faculty and staff, that's a major red flag for potential hires.
You're right. These days, candidates are prioritizing well-being more than ever. If they sense that an institution doesn't value its people, they're going to look elsewhere.
Exactly. Protecting faculty and staff from harm isn't just ethical. It's a strategic imperative for attracting and retaining top talent. It's about creating a workplace where people feel valued, supported, and empowered to do their best work.
So how do we actually put this protection from harm element into practice? The article outlines 4 concrete steps institutions can take. I'm curious to hear your take on these, especially from an HR perspective.
Of course, let's dive into those steps. The first one focuses on auditing and adjusting workloads. This is about ensuring faculty and staff have manageable responsibilities and the resources they need to thrive. We'll break this down further in just a moment. From an HR perspective, conducting workload audits can reveal systemic issues that might be contributing to burnout and stress. It's an opportunity to identify areas where adjustments can be made, perhaps by redistributing tasks or providing additional support staff.
It sounds like a proactive approach to preventing burnout before it even becomes a problem. It's about recognizing that faculty and staff are human beings with limits, not tireless machines.
Precisely. The second step emphasizes the importance of encouraging rest and recovery. This is a huge cultural shift for academia, where the pressure to constantly produce and be on is deeply ingrained.
You know, it almost feels revolutionary to suggest that academics should actually take breaks. But you're right, it's essential for preventing burnout and ensuring long-term well-being. How can institutions foster this culture of rest and recovery?
It starts by setting clear expectations and boundaries around work hours and communication. Institutions can also implement policies that encourage employees to take vacation time and mental health days without feeling guilty or penalized.
So it's about shifting the mindset from glorifying overwork to valuing sustainable practices. It's about recognizing that true productivity comes from a place of well-being, not exhaustion.
The third step tackles the often stigmatized topic of mental health head on. It calls for normalizing conversations about mental health and seeking support. This means creating a culture where employees feel comfortable discussing their struggles without fear of judgment or repercussions.
I can see this being particularly challenging in academia, where there's often this pressure to maintain a facade of intellectual and emotional invulnerability. How can institutions break down these barriers and encourage more open dialogue about mental health?
It requires a multifaceted approach. Leadership needs to model vulnerability and create a safe space for these conversations. Institutions can also provide training to faculty and staff on how to recognize signs of mental distress in themselves and others, as well as resources for seeking help.
It's about creating a culture where asking for help is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness. And that requires a fundamental shift in how we view mental health within the academic environment.
Absolutely. And the fourth step, integrating diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, DEIA principles, is crucial for creating a truly inclusive and supportive workplace.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Why is DEIA so critical for protecting faculty and staff from harm?
Certain groups within academia, such as faculty of color women and LGBTQ+ individuals, often face unique stressors and barriers. These can stem from systemic biases, microaggressions, or a lack of representation and support. Addressing these inequities is essential for creating a workplace where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued.
So by weaving DEIA principles into every aspect of the workplace, institutions can create a more equitable and just environment, which ultimately contributes to the overall well-being of their faculty and staff.
Precisely. By addressing the systemic factors that can contribute to harm, institutions can foster a culture of belonging where all individuals can thrive.
These 4 steps paint a pretty comprehensive picture of what it means to protect faculty and staff from harm. But I'm curious, how can HR professionals specifically leverage this framework to improve their recruitment and retention efforts?
That's a great question. Let's consider the perspective of a potential hire. Today's job seekers, especially in academia, are looking for more than just a salary and benefits package. They want to work for institutions that align with their values, institutions that prioritize their well-being.
So you're saying that highlighting an institution's commitment to mental health and a supportive work environment can be a major selling point in attracting top talent.
Exactly. During the interview process, HR professionals can emphasize the institution's policies and initiatives related to workload management, work-life balance, and mental health support. They can showcase the steps being taken to create a truly inclusive and equitable workplace.
It's about demonstrating that the institution is genuinely invested in the well-being of its employees, not just paying lip service to it.
Precisely. And on the retention side, these efforts can make a significant difference in reducing turnover. When faculty and staff feel supported and valued, they're more likely to stay with an institution long term.
This is where the connection between faculty and staff well-being and the success of the institution becomes really clear. If you want to attract and retain top talent, you need to create a workplace where people can thrive.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. By prioritizing the mental health and well-being of faculty and staff, institutions can create a more engaged, productive, and innovative workforce, which ultimately benefits everyone.
And this, in turn, enhances the institution's reputation, making it even more attractive to future hires and students. It creates a positive cycle that benefits the entire academic community. It's amazing how prioritizing well-being can have such a ripple effect, benefiting not just faculty and staff, but the entire institution. And then let's not forget the students.
You're absolutely right. When faculty and staff are thriving, it creates a more positive and supportive learning environment for students. They can sense when their professors and mentors are burnt out or stressed, and it can impact their own well-being and academic performance.
So it's not just about protecting faculty and staff, it's about fostering a healthier and more vibrant academic community for everyone.
Exactly. Students benefit from having professors who are engaged, energized, and passionate about their work. And that can only happen when those professors feel supported and valued by the institution.
It makes you wonder why this hasn't been a priority sooner. Why has there been such a historical neglect of mental health in academia?
It's a complex issue rooted in a culture that often prioritizes achievement and stoicism over well-being. There's this perception that academics are supposed to be tough, to push through challenges without complaining. It's that suck-it-up mentality that's so pervasive in our society.
And it's incredibly harmful. It creates a culture of silence and shame around mental health issues, preventing people from seeking help when they need it most.
Absolutely. But I'm hopeful that the tide is turning. The pandemic forced us to confront the reality that mental health is just as important as physical health. And now we have this framework from the Surgeon General, which provides a roadmap for creating a mentally healthy workplace.
It's a powerful tool for change, offering a way to shift the culture of academia and create a more humane and supportive environment for everyone.
And for those of you listening who are involved in HR and recruitment, you have a unique opportunity to be champions for change within your institutions. You can advocate for policies that prioritize well-being, educate your colleagues about the importance of mental health, and create a culture where seeking support is encouraged and normalized.
You can be the ones to help shift the narrative from one of neglecting mental health to one of actively promoting it. And in doing so, you'll not only be attracting and retaining top talent, but you'll also be contributing to a healthier and more vibrant academic community for everyone.
This deep dive has really highlighted how interconnected everything is. The well-being of faculty and staff, the success of the institution, the quality of the student experience, it's all intertwined. By prioritizing mental health, we can create a positive ripple effect that benefits the entire academic ecosystem.
This conversation has been so insightful. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. For our listeners, remember you can find all higher ed jobs in your field, maybe even at an institution that prioritizes well-being at academicjobs.com. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mental health and higher education.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.